January 15, 1919. The city of Boston, Massachusetts, awoke to what seemed like an ordinary winter morning. Cargo ships were being unloaded at the harbor. Factory smokestacks filled the sky. Workers had already begun their shifts. Children played in the streets. No one knew that within minutes, one of the strangest disasters in history was about to unfold. Because on that day, it wasn't water that flooded the city, it was millions of liters of molasses. This is the story of the Great Molasses Flood. At the beginning of the 20th century, molasses was far more than a simple sweetener. It was used to produce sugar. It was widely used in baking. It was added to animal feed. And perhaps most importantly, it was a key ingredient in the production of industrial alcohol. After the First World War, demand for molasses continued to grow. Companies needed enormous quantities of it to keep up with demand. Massive storage tanks were built across the United States. One of the largest stood beside Boston Harbor. It was nearly 15 meters tall, almost 30 meters wide, and capable of holding more than 2.3 million gallons, over 8 million liters, of molasses for its time. It was an engineering giant. But the tank showed signs of trouble almost from the beginning. As soon as it was filled for the first time, molasses began leaking through the seams. Local children would sometimes bring small cans to collect the syrup dripping from its walls. Residents frequently reported strange groaning and rumbling noises coming from inside the tank. Whenever it was full, the steel structure seemed to creak under the enormous pressure. Some workers believed something was seriously wrong. Instead of carrying out a thorough inspection, however, the company chose a much simpler solution. They painted the entire tank brown. The leaks became far less noticeable. The problem hadn't been solved. It had simply been hidden. On January 15th, temperatures in Boston rose unexpectedly. Only days earlier, a fresh shipment of warm molasses had arrived from the Caribbean and had been pumped into the tank. The newly delivered molasses was much warmer than the syrup already inside. The sudden change in temperature increased the pressure even further. By noon, the steel tank was under tremendous stress. Neighbors once again heard the familiar groaning of metal, but this time, the sound suddenly stopped. A split second later, a deafening explosion shattered the neighborhood. The enormous tank had completely burst apart. Steel plates weighing several tons were hurled hundreds of meters through the air. Then, more than 8 million liters of molasses exploded into the streets. The wave reached nearly 8 meters in height. In some places, moving at an estimated 50 kilometers per hour. The thick, dark syrup crushed everything in its path. This was no ordinary liquid. Molasses is far denser than water. Once people were caught inside it, swimming became almost impossible. The first buildings near the waterfront were smashed apart. Horse-drawn wagons were overturned. Utility poles snapped. Railroad tracks were twisted. Windows exploded from the force. People barely had time to react before they were swallowed by the wave. Some tried to run, but every step became harder than the last. The syrup clung to their clothes. It trapped their feet. Even breathing became a struggle. Some victims were only a few meters from safety, yet they never managed to escape. The roar of the collapse could be heard from miles away. Firefighters were among the first to arrive. Soon they were joined by police officers, soldiers, doctors, and countless volunteers. But the rescue quickly turned into a nightmare. As the temperature dropped, the molasses became even thicker. Almost like glue, rescuers struggled to move. Stretchers became difficult to carry. Victims had to be pulled free by hand. Every minute mattered. Yet, the sticky flood fought against every rescue attempt. By the time the operation was over, the full scale of the disaster had become clear. 21 people had lost their lives. Around 150 others had been injured. Hundreds of buildings had been damaged. Entire sections of the waterfront had been devastated. Cleaning up the city took weeks. The streets had to be washed over and over again. Buildings were scrubbed from top to bottom, but the molasses seemed to be everywhere. It stuck to shoes, covered wagon wheels, and soaked deep into the streets for months afterward. Residents claimed they could still smell its sweet scent throughout the neighborhood. An extensive investigation soon followed. Inspectors discovered that the tank had never been properly tested before being put into service. Some of its steel plates were thinner than they should have been. Several rivets were poorly made, and despite years of complaints, the company had failed to repair the growing structural problems. The legal battle lasted for years. In the end, the company was found responsible for the disaster and ordered to compensate the victims. The case became a turning point in American engineering. It led to stricter building regulations, more rigorous structural calculations, and independent safety inspections for large industrial projects. A single disaster had changed the way major structures would be built for generations. Today, nothing remains of the enormous steel tank. The neighborhood has long since been rebuilt, yet the Great Molasses Flood remains one of the most extraordinary disasters in American history. Even now, more than a century later, some Boston residents still claim that on hot summer days, they can catch a faint smell of molasses in the air. Whether that is fact or simply local legend remains uncertain. But one thing is undeniable. The memory of that day has never completely disappeared. And on that day, people learned a lesson they would never forget. The deadliest disasters don't always come from earthquakes or fires or even wars. Sometimes they come from the one thing no one ever believed could be dangerous. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Until the next video.